ballot paper.
It seemed only fitting that the candidates should be declared in the chamber where 12 of the successful runners will spend so much time over the next 5 years. The 60 aldermanic candidates and their proposers were named, and then came the moment most of those gathered had waited for, the Lord Mayoral candidates' placings on the ballot sheet. The 10 names were placed in cylinders and then put into a ballot box. They were then drawn out, with Vic Bell taking out the coveted #1 spot. Next on the sheet is Jerry Wells, then Neville Cunningham, Margaret Gumaz, James E. Smith, Ashley Saunders, Steve Jeffries, Don Geddes, John McNaughton and Kenneth A. Pettit. State Electoral Commissioner Ian Dixon says that the #1 position doesn't gain the same number of donkey votes that it once did. But he says it does give the candidate a psychological advantage. And Mr Bell says he's thrilled with his good fortune.
#1 on the ballot paper does get you votes that you wouldn't get normally, because people do, in effect, there are a number of people that don't enjoy voting. They vote because it's compulsory, and they're quite happy to put their vote at #1, and they then think they've met their responsibility.
There were no nerves for Mr Morris. When you hold the portfolio for aviation, your reputation's on the line when you go for your wings. And according to Chief Instructor Bernie Zaroff, the Minister graduated a very capable and confident pilot. He was up and away in a Cessna 152, showing that as the Minister for Aviation, he also makes a great pilot.
Is it signing all those papers as Minister for Aviation that's inspired you to come along and learn?
No, that didn't inspire me, but it's certainly learning to fly and having some understanding of what's involved has helped me in my work, but that wasn't the reason.
Which has more excitement, a session in Parliament or a fly in the plane?
They're both exciting experiences, but vastly different. This is the much more enjoyable one.
Mr Morris was clearly in control on approach to the runway and executed an almost copybook landing. He aims now to get more hours under his belt before going for his unrestricted licence, which will allow him to fly anywhere in Australia.
And have you heard a whisper that perhaps in the budget they're cutting your travelling allowance and this is why you're learning to fly?
Well, we hear all sorts of whispers about budgets, but no, we're only ordinary mortals. We couldn't seek to forecast what would actually happen.
It was 14 all at half-time with 2 tries to both sides, but it was the Curry Bulldogs who'd looked the better side. The second half continued the trend as the tricolours looked like they'd wrapped it up, leading 20-14, then extending the lead with another try. But South, to their credit, proved that the rumours that they weren't flat out because the game meant little to them were very wrong. They tidied up their game and came charging back when it looked to be almost too late. At 24 all, a playoff between Central and Curry for 5th spot looked to be certain, but the big rep second row forward Tony Couville made the most of a chance to grab a try right on full time, and the Bulldogs were gone for the season. And Central were in for the first time in many, many years. And they'd started the year with a 76-4 hiding from Cessnock. Football's a funny game.
Play the hyphy.
This year's Classic attracted a big field of 72 wave ski riders. 16 were left in yesterday's finals. The small surf made it difficult for the riders to show just what they can do, but that didn't deter the healthy crowd that was on hand. In the men's final, 2 Novocastrians, Cole Samways and Mick Smith, were in the running, along with world champion John Christensen and tournament number 2 seed Mike Clemson, both from Sydney. Clemson in the white vest looked good from the start. His excellent wave selection gave him many exciting rides. Christensen in the red, on the other hand, was having trouble picking the right waves and struggled for good scoring rides. At the end of that final, the result, Clemson first, Christensen second, with Samways edging out Smith for third. In the other three finals, Coffs Harbour riders made a clean sweep, winning all three. In the Masters, Doug Sykes, the women's Lynn Furbank and the juniors Matt Hunter. At the end of the day, the organisers were delighted, saying it was the best event to date.
And as we see John Christensen just finishing a wave off over here.
Watanabe is one of 5 centres in the Wyong district, which offers childcare services to working parents. The centre provides full daycare for 40 toddlers under the age of 5. The new Minister for Youth and Community Services, John Aquilina, today opened Watanabe before an audience who benefit most from the centre, and was then presented with a colourful gift. The Minister says rising costs of living resulting in more dual career families has made government-funded childcare centres a much-needed service in the community. But will that change after the budget is announced tomorrow night?
Well, I certainly know what I'm going to be doing in terms of making sure that there are no cuts at childcare centres. And after all, I think we've got to look at the fact that we have had a very proud record. This particular centre is one of 47 that was built in that particular year. There are currently another 30 being built, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to make sure that we don't have any cut in New South Wales.
If cuts are in store, what's going to happen to the centres that are already established? Where will the money come from?
Well, as far as the existing centres are concerned, obviously they've got to be maintained, they've got to be continued to be run. I don't envisage that we will have any substantial difficulties in that regard. There were already several matters mooted some months ago. They haven't come to fruition. We are today one day before the budget. I'll be looking forward to hearing what is in the budget tomorrow night and making up my mind then in relation to exactly what resource allocations we make.
President Roy Taylor, the problem of vehicles on the beach has taken many years to come to grips with. The plan is to allow registered four-wheel drive and recreational vehicles access to just 15 kilometres of Stockton Beach. The stretch starts 2 kilometres northeast of Stockton Hospital and extends north to the border of the RAAF firing range. Users will be able to drive on an area 30 metres wide, which stretches from the low water mark to the frontal sand dunes. The only legal entrance and exit to the beach will be via Lavis Lane at Williamtown. All others, including those at Anna Bay, will be off limits. Shire President Roy Taylor says offenders may face fines of up to $500.
It's an area that's given us quite a deal of problems over the years, and we've endeavoured to legalise something that will fit the situation, that can be used by the public and that we can police. And perhaps by doing this we will certainly save the dunes and provide an area that people can recreationally fish and drive along the beach. Done anywhere, obviously we're going to be investigating.
The re-elected chairman of the Lake Macquarie Tourist Association, Robert Hertogs, says the association is going from strength to strength. He says plans to send an educational project kit into the schools will help increase awareness. But he says the big boost to tourism in the area will come with the opening of the F3 freeway to Morisset later this year.
I believe that the development of the new highway system, which is going to have a freeway right to Morisset, is going to make an opportunity available to the people of Lake Macquarie to develop a tourist industry much greater than they have now.
Mr Hertog says the next obstacle will be to persuade council to employ a permanent tourist officer for Lake Macquarie.
At the moment, our association has 2 people employed under a CEP grant, and they've proved most beneficial in the first 2 months of their employment. It is our wish that they prove to the Lake Macquarie City Council that there is a real need for permanent staff to service the Tourist Association.
Has the council given an
There are over 30 legitimate styles of karate in Australia. Novocastrian Peter Oberecker is this country's leading exponent of Okinawan Goju-Ryu Karate Do. He's been training for 25 years, holds a 3rd Dan black belt, and last year was placed in charge of that style of karate in Australia. Now he's been selected as part of an elite group of instructors worldwide who'll take part in a seminar in Japan with the world's leader in Goju-Ryu. It will be a week of intensive training in October at the base of Mount Fuji with the top black belts in the world. Only 2 people in Australia have been invited to attend. One is Peter and the other is another Novocastrian, Ray Weir. Both are instructors in the sport, and when they return they'll be passing on what they learn around Australia.
Taxis operate in the Newcastle Transport District. While the incidence of violence against drivers has dropped to about 3 serious cases a year, the Taxi Services Cooperative would like to see this number reduced even further. Early yesterday morning, taxi driver Norm Ellum suffered a broken cheekbone in an incident at the junction. It's alleged he was struck by a man following an altercation over the hiring of the cab. The Secretary-Manager of the Taxi Services Co-op, Bruce Chisholm, says a sophisticated alarm system in taxis offers drivers some protection and also assists in the quick apprehension of offenders. Mr Chisholm says stiffer penalties would also act as a deterrent.
I think something should be done with penalties, and those penalties should be made clear to the public, and I'm sure that that would have a deterrent effect on these type of people.
Now, in the past you've also called for more late-night public transport. Has that been successful?
Well, to a degree, yes. The UTA have instituted 2 additional services from the city late at night. There's one at 1:26 a.m. goes out to Wallsend via various suburbs, and there's another service at 2:32 a.m. Goes to Belmont via Gateshead and Windale, and so there have been additional services instituted. We think the UTA maybe could have given them greater publicity so that people are aware that those additional services are there.
Every 5 years, New South Wales plays host to the National Indoor Bowls Championships, and this year the venue is the Newcastle Entertainment Centre. There are 5 state teams competing, which include Queensland, Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania and New South Wales. Each side has 60 team members with a 4-member junior squad. Over this week they'll be contesting the singles, pairs, triples and fours events, playing in a round robin. Yesterday the open event in the fours was held, and today we'll see the battle of the mixed pairs. On Thursday the Australian teams events will begin and continue on Friday. Those games will be the qualifying rounds to the finals planned for Saturday afternoon. The convoy of taxis got underway at the Broadmeadow racetrack rank yesterday. The rally was organised to protest against penalties now enforced to offenders who maliciously damage vehicles like this one, stolen and dumped at Glenrock Lagoon early Sunday morning. For many drivers, their taxis and profits are their only income. The drivers say harsher penalties should be introduced to act as a deterrent, and joining forces, a mobile protest rolled its way through the streets of Newcastle. The cabbies say the lighter penalties affect both drivers and passengers.
Well, we need something. You see, we're out there operating, the taxi owners are out there operating now, and we're doing everything we can. Everybody's doing everything they can, and these people go into court and they walk in one side and out the other, and we think, well, why should we do this? People see us as a scapegoat, and we're not happy about that. And that's the purpose of this protest, that we need the final link in the chain. We need the harsher penalties. Otherwise, it's not only our problem in the taxi industry, it's your problem in society.
These boys represent the future of soccer in northern New South Wales. Amongst them are potential Ray Barts and Craig Johnstons. The under-13 squad playing in the White Strip leave on Friday morning for Perth and the Australian titles. At the same time, the under-14s will travel to Brisbane for their national titles. Both teams are expected to do well. The under-13s in particular are one of the strongest squads for many years. Coach Roger Smith helped a northern under-15 side win the national titles in 1978. He says these boys are also potential champions.
Standard is extremely high in this area this year. These under-13 boys that I've got, it's extremely top ball skill players. No hesitation about them to get into a game and move and really work during a game and use their ball skills and their teamwork as looking after one another, considering they come from all over northern New South Wales and only get together for the training sessions on Sunday. Is absolutely tremendous. I'm very thrilled with them at the moment.
Is the standard of northern soccer improving?
St Heliers is located 7 kilometres just outside of Muswellbrook. The property was first settled in 1825, but since the 1940s it's been in the hands of the Department of Youth and Community Services. The house has served as a boys' home and provided accommodation for state wards, but it's the interest shown by the Corrective Services Department which may change its existing function. A spokesman for the department confirmed that St Heliers is being considered for a low-security prison. But no final decision has been made, and the site is one of 50 throughout the state now being looked at by the department. The Matara Pastel exhibition is in memory of Peter Sparks, who was a respected painter, art critic and teacher in Newcastle. More than 100 entries were received from throughout New South Wales and interstate, arriving from Queensland, Victoria and the ACT. 63 pastels were selected and hung in the Von Berto Gallery, where they were judged by art restorer and advisor Clarice Thomas. Last night, the winners were announced. First prize and $1,000 was awarded to Helen Gear from Braidwood on the southern tableland for her work entitled Triptych. Second place and $500 went to former Newcastle artist Shay Docking, and the $300 third prize was awarded to Novocastrian artist Francis Keltland. Future sponsorship of the first prize by the Public Trust Office has secured the Memorial Pastel Award, an annual event for the Matara Festival. It was a slow start for the Cessnock side, who met with Lakes United in the major semi-final. Despite the Seagulls playing without their two representative second rowers and captain Rip Taylor, now the sideline coach after a 4-game suspension, Lakes defeated their Cessnock opponents 22-6. It's a game plan which Taylor will keep for the decider in 2 weeks' time.
At this stage, I wouldn't think there'd be any major changes. We copped a couple of light injuries today, but the week off's really going to help our players, this time.
So you're confident of taking out the 1986 Premiership?
Well, I'm confident as I can be after today's win, yes.
Cessnock captain coach Bruce Starkey believes the Goannas are still in there with a chance for this weekend's final.
Oh, I think we'll go pretty well against South. We just one of those days we had a pretty hard game against West last week, and got a few little niggling injuries, the boys, but I'm pretty confident we'll get over them and we'll give South a good run.
It was a small gathering of citizens that turned out to hear the different policies of the 8 groups contesting the Newcastle City Council elections. The meeting was organised by the Newcastle Civic Association, which represents the 13 resident groups of the area. Speakers from the 3 independent groups, the Labor, Liberal, Democrats, Free Enterprise and Citizens Group, addressed topical issues and how their policies would benefit the city. Views on earlier access to council business papers, noise pollution laws and council interaction with residents groups were heard. All candidates are expected to be out in force on the campaign trail now that the council election is only 12 days away.